Top of the day, beautiful people. Anita, greetings. Mom, shalom, shalom. Vinay, greetings, greetings. All right, y'all. De jour, grand rising. Praises to the Creator on my way to work. Be safe. Hold on. You know what? I thought we got two Elijahs. Because I know you ain't changed your name that fast. De jour, Elijah Spence. Be safe on the way to work. Elijah 7. Hallelujah. Vinay. The Drew Haas in that debate was full of flesh and blood. Which one you talking about? The one we was talking about yesterday? Kendra, shalom, shalom. Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. It was good, though. It was really good. It was a really, really good lesson. She-Bro, hey, sis. Hey, girl, hey. All right, beautiful people. Happy Thursday. It is September 22nd, 2022, day 219 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1237. We are still reading Big Blue, the Oahspe, the Elohist version. We are in God's Book of Eskra, and we paused at the end of chapter 43 yesterday on page 630, so we will be picking up with chapter 44, and now it's about to get into the origin of Mohammedanism, right? The Islamic faith. Father, we thank you that you are the calm in everything. All right, y'all, so let's get started right away. Set apart, bless rising, sis. Okay, page 630, chapter 44, the origin of Mohammedanism. The Lord said, remember, they just went through the origins of Christianity yesterday and how that started, right? And we know Luamung is behind it all. The Lord said, after Luamung had cast out all other false gods in his earth dominions, he set to work enriching his heavenly throne, employing no less than 7,000 million angel slaves for that purpose. Now, the place and extent of his heavenly capital was from Hesetas in Roma, and thence northward to the Aquarian Mountains. His palace was modeled after Inochesus at Eteshon, and of equal magnificence. His greatest warriors were now exalted as lords, generals, marshals, and so on, and he provided rites and ceremonies and tournaments and all manner of heavenly diversities. Hey. But he made the rules of entrance to his palace so rigid that only his highest officers and visiting gods could gain access to him. Now, for upward of 1,000 years, the angel warrior Gabriel, alias Thoth, had been to Luamung his most faithful sub-god, and Luamung had promised Gabriel that when he overthrew Baal and cast him into hell, he would give to Gabriel a great heavenly kingdom with an earthly base. Accordingly, Gabriel applied for Jerusalem, his station, and for the heavens thereunto belonging, and for 1,000 million slaves. But Luamung postponed the matter from time to time for more than 600 years. Thoth, alias Gabriel, then sent his message to Luamung to wit, by virtue of mine own worth before the gods of heaven, I greet thee in peace and love. First, in remembrance of thy many promises to me, in which thou hast kept no part thereof faithfully. Second, that thou art not Christ. Look, Gabriel, listen, I didn't help you along with your shenanigans. But first of all, me and you both know that you are not the Christ. He pissing Gabriel off. Look. First, in remembrance of thy many promises to me, in which thou hast kept no part thereof faithfully. Second, that thou art not Christ, which is all knowledge, but a usurper and a pretender. Third, that I made thee what thou art, and by mine own hand helped thee to cast out Baal and Ashtaroth, and all the Roman and Argosian gods, of which matters is known in these great three heavens. Thou didst promise me for more than 700 years to give me a kingdom of 1,000,000,000 subjects. And fourth, since thou art safely raised up above all the gods within these regions, thou hast affected to not know me. Yea, in thy great heavenly recreations and tournaments and receptions, thou hast not commanded my presence, nor in any way shown more remembrance of me than if I were an Esian. And fifth, thou didst long promise me that if thou shouldest succeed in establishing a sub-kingdom on earth or in Hada, near the earth, thou wouldest hand the same over to me, to rank thee in all things. But thou hast greedily kept both kingdoms to thyself, making either place thy residence according to the times and seasons most propitious to thine own glory and ease. And lastly, that thou sacrificest the liberty of thy subjects, making them thy laborers to embellish thy kingdom, and making them little better than slaves, and forever parading in the ceremonies given in thy applause. These things have I often desired to speak to thee about, but thou ever affectest to be overrun with other matters, so as to put me off from my opportunity. Whereupon I have prayed to the Holy Ghost for hundreds of years to have my suit just and honorable and holy. And there's a whole lot of other people praying to the Holy Ghost too. They ain't got no answers. They still, let me stop. Did y'all get it? But I shall search no further. Hundreds of millions of thy highest grades, who went down to the earth with me to fight thy battles, and who know the justice of my and who know the justness of my cause, will, at a word from me, withdraw from thy kingdom and join me in an enterprise of mine own. I shall wait patiently for thy reply. But Gabriel received no reply in this message. Key. And in course of time, he called together 10,000 angel warriors, and they assembled in a place called Kala Horid, the place of 7 steps in Hada. Gabriel spake before them, saying, Here will I establish my kingdom of heaven, and forever. I will show this false Christ what I can do. Mark ye, the great power of a God is to establish a good foothold on the earth. The natural increase will soon populate a heavenly kingdom. I will raise me up a prophet and seer of my own on the earth, and establish a new doctrine amongst mortals. Behold, I have a sword that will cut to pieces Luamunk's kingdom on earth. For listen, in the old Egyptian libraries, in the old Egyptian libraries are books and tablets and manuscripts that will show the perversity of the Constantine Bible, right? The Constantine Bible, which has since been named the Ezra Bible, right? And then also now the Christian Bible. It's the same thing. For listen, in the old Egyptian libraries are books and tablets and manuscripts that will show the perversity of the Constantine Bible. I mean, shucks, we seen that when we started reading through the complete Anunnaki Bible, right? Which had been translated from cuneiform from the ancient Sumerian tablets, right? And people, they want to look. They ain't answered this one yet. At least I ain't seen nobody. I think I seen a couple people ask this question about this when they said, well, okay, you got and these were some other little things I was watching when somebody was like, they asked a question about the Oahspe. I was like, that recent book. They said, well, okay, have you read the ancient Sumerian tablets, which are way more ancient than the Bible? What do you got to say about some of the stuff in there that has been word for word repeated in the Holy Bible? What you got to say about that? I don't know nothing about that. You know, I'm like, well, of course you don't. because you don't read anything, right? But almost word for word, a lot of stuff has been translated from the cuneiform and the ancient Sumerian tablets and put it right there in the Holy Bible that the Christians carry around. Into the go, shalom says, Hana shalom, or shalom, blue sky shalom. I'm like, oh yeah, y'all should do a little bit more homework, right? Because, okay. Let me go back. Verse 22, page 631. I will raise me up a prophet and a seer of my own on the earth, and establish a new doctrine amongst mortals. Behold, I have a sword that will cut to pieces Luamong's kingdom on earth. For listen, in the old Egyptian libraries are books and tablets and manuscripts that will show the perversity of the Constantine Bible. Bronze yoke, shalom. Now, when I have established my prophet, I will cause mortal legions of Arabians to possess these libraries, especially Alexandria's. And I will raise up mortal scholars who will establish the truth of my prophet's doctrine and the falsity of this false Christ doctrines. And I will thus overturn his earthly kingdom and possess all these mortal regions myself to be mine forever. After that manner, the angel Gabriel boasted, and he made the 10,000 his holy council, and from amongst them he appointed marshals, captains, generals, heralds, and officers in general. And they built the throne in heaven unto Gabriel, and they called the throne Kala Horet. And he went and sat thereon, and then crowned himself Gabriel, God of heaven and earth. And then he crowned 10 lords to wit, Atenev, Lichong, Tudol, Rain, Hakiah, Wachorf, Yadimis, Stewborn, Wolf, and Gusak. And Gabriel thereafter commenced the initiation of members to his kingdom. And there thus acceded to his heavenly place upward of 500,000 angels every day. And this continued until Kala contained more than 800 million angel subjects. Of these, certain selections were made according to grade, who were appointed as officers over the rest, and immediately they were put to work, building heavenly mansions and constructing streets and roads and all things required in an exalted heaven. And in the meantime, Gabriel's palace and throne were extended and beautified beyond description. Gabriel knew the power of rites and ceremonies, and he provided unto his heavenly kingdom accordingly, so that his people were kept in a constant strain of excitement because of his wonderful inventions, so that millions and millions of them truly believed he was the veritable creator of heaven and earth, thus in the form of an angel. Gabriel perceived this, and for these he provided places of trust and nearness to him, that his miraculous power might be the better strengthened with the unbelieving. Now the time came when Gabriel's kingdom was sufficiently established, and he began to provide for his great scheme to establish himself with mortals, that their spirits after death might be brought to his kingdom. For such is the order of Jehovah's creation, that whomsoever man worship whilst he is on earth, to that God will his spirit float after death, and without resistance become a dutiful slave, not knowing there be other gods and other heavens. And this is not the first time we see this. This is being constantly repeated throughout here, right? And what's crazy is, think about some of these people that they had near-death experiences, and not just the Christian ones that float to Luamong's kingdom and come back, oh my God, Jesus is real. We ain't talking about them. Let's talk about some of these other ones that worship other deities, right? And they done saw them, right? And they bring back information that can be tested and proven here. What we got to say about that? Verse 30. And Gabriel made Atenev chief lord of lords to go down to the earth and find a mortal capable of required inspiration. And he gave to Atenev to be his co-laborers, Yedimis, Stewborn, and Wolf. And with them, at their call, 300 million angel warriors. And with this host, Atenev departed for the earth for Arabinia. And as he went forth, he dropped of his host. That should probably be off. A little typo. You find these when you read through it page by page, word by word. It makes sense if this said off and not of. I'm going to read it again. And with this host, a tenth departed for the earth for Arabia, and as he went forth, he dropped of his host at certain distances, groups of angels. I mean, I guess that I should have just kept reading, right? He went forth, hold on. And as he went forth, he dropped of his host at certain distances, groups of angels which formed the line of light from Gabriel down to the earth. So it could be of, not off, but it do make sense with off too. And as he went forth, he dropped off his host at certain distances, groups of angels. Well, it does make, I'm sorry, belay my last. I should have just kept reading, read it twice. It does, by saying off and reading it like that, it does make better sense with it being of. So let me read it again. Forget I just said what I just said. I was wrong. Verse 31, page 631. And with his host, a tenth departed for the earth for Arabia, and as he went forth, he dropped of his host at certain distances, groups of angels which formed the line of light from Gabriel down to the earth, right? The same line of light where they can get spiritual inspiration, so to speak, right? Nene, shalom, shalom. Look, also, real quick, if you check the community section, I shared one of the references I mentioned yesterday where you got some scientists that have heard about Oahspe and the cosmogony part, because that's what they do. None of the spiritual stuff they have done yet, but they do mention some of the things, because as they begin to search the cosmogony, what was found in Oahspe, because remember, they're scientists, they have access to different tools and resources that the normal populace doesn't necessarily have. So they can do, like, you can call these high-tech experiments to really check the validity of some stuff. It's like, oh, well, bro, I got some water, I got some flour, I got a spoon, I got a battery and a wire. That's not going to be sufficient to test this, right? But we got the tools to test this. It's a link for one, and it's like they put it in PDF, but that wasn't the one I was telling you about yesterday, but that was the first one I shared. While I was pulling together the next one, I fell asleep and I woke up this morning. But I'm gonna share that today. That's the book that actually came, that has the engineer dude that works with people in NASA, and they form these think tanks. That's in that book. I'm gonna share that reference. And they got that $5 on Amazon, right? Stuff people don't even know how much value they don't properly value things, but good for us. It's affordable and we can grab it up real quick. Worry about, oh, what is that trash, and grab it up, right? It's our time to restore things, and we have things before us where people, like I said yesterday, that don't even profess to know anybody, right? But because of how they've been trained in life and their profession as scientists, and their mindset is to prove all things, even scripture, right? That's something that's good that's in there. Test all things. Test all things. This is what their life consists of. Testing principles and things. People saying these theories and things, can this be proven here, right? Because they have the mindset, if we can see it happening, we can understand this, and there's some validity to it. Sailor got a book of cosmogony, or is it a book of prophecies? Okay, if you know the name of it, share it. I may have come across it, I may not. I'm sure he got way more references than I do. I'm still searching for stuff, trying to prove all these things myself. But I'm going to share that reference with y'all today. I'm going to also post that in the community section and down in the comment section on YouTube and in Facebook, so everybody can see it, right? But yeah, that was really, really interesting. And that, like I said yesterday, it baffles me that people who don't do any kind of research except from just one book that they have, and some of the other man-made books, and just people's words. That's all they have is people's words, but they ain't really trying to do any kind of proving. You just trying to defend people's words that really could have come from anywhere, right? The Creator has given us critical thinking skills, or we should have been developing them, right? So we can get in here and test these things ourselves, and test these men and these women words to see if these things be true or not, right? And there's more than enough evidence around us. When our eyes is open to it, it's like we can't unsee it, right? But if it's closed, It's closed and you can't see a thing, right? And you will keep on spewing out your rhetoric and it'll sound right in your own ears, but we're looking at you like you can't really believe that. Can you? Right? SIL Grand Rising. Look, Selah's book is the timetables of prophecy. Okay, I'm gonna look that up. You know what? I think I remember him talking about it, but I'm gonna look it up. All right, y'all. Thank you, Vinette. But I got 4 of those books coming after reading it for free on Kindle. Okay, cool. Look, if you got some that I didn't mention, SIL, list them in here. Show me. My library is growing daily. Kindle, my electronic library, and my physical library. All right. Page 631, chapter 45. The Lord said, Gabriel raised upon the earth one Muhammad and inspired him through his angel host, and the angels inspired Muhammad to go once every month in the year to the cave of Hira, on which occasions Gabriel came in person and talked with Muhammad, who had Suis in great perfection. 12 years in peace did Gabriel inspire mortals through Muhammad. But at the end of 13 years, Muhammad attained to sufficient strength to draw the sword for Gabriel's doctrine. And Gabriel, through inspiration, caused the Mohammedans to commemorate this as the beginning of his kingdom on the earth. And they therefore consecrated the said period of time. And on this first meeting of the faithful in Gabriel, And on this first meeting of the faithful in Gabriel, Muhammad, being under inspiration, spake before the multitude, saying, There is but one God, and he is God. Heaven is his. The earth is the Lord's through the angel Gabriel. This is the sum and substance of all things. This was the doctrine of Abraham and Moses and our forefathers. But evil men have invented other gods which have no existence. They are idols which exist only in superstition and ignorance. Revere me not, nor call me wise. I am not wise. I have little learning. Knowledge cometh to me from the unseen. My eyes are open, my ears are open. I see and hear spiritual things. The angels of heaven tell me things of wisdom. I do but repeat them. Therefore, I am not wise nor great. I strive to be honest and upright before God, but I am weaker than a child in these respects. Therefore, worship not me, nor bow down before me. I am nothing. As I am an instrument in the hands of God through his angel Gabriel, so also were Abraham and Moses and many of the prophets. They could work miracles. I cannot. Therefore, I am the least of God's prophets. That ye may become exalted before God, I am sent into the world. Shall I reveal what Gabriel hath told me? Or do ye believe God is dead, or going afar off? Believe ye that he cannot raise up a prophet in this day? Is God weak, or hath he forgotten the world he created? Why hath this thing come at this time? No man can answer that. Gabriel said, There is a false God in heaven, and he hath falsely called himself Christ. Gabriel said that he himself, Gabriel, provided the way for the gathering of the lost sheep of Israel through an ISU. Brothers, I will tell you why I am chosen of God. It is to circumvent the Christians' idolatry from coming into Arabia and the countries north and south and east. These countries were given by God to our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and thence down to Moses, and thence down to us. But there is one God, and Gabriel, his angel, is of all the world. And God raised up a prophet from time to time to bless his chosen people. He put this matter upon me. I know only to serve God. The Christians are merciless warriors. This false Christ and his worshipers are working for the Romans and not for salvation. Wherever they go, they destroy the libraries and all manner of learning. They still doing it today. Will ye submit like slaves, to have them despoil you? Is there no Arabian blood in your veins? Oh yeah, they definitely about to start jihad. Look. Will ye submit like slaves to have them despoil you? Is there no Arabian blood in your veins? When asked to state the Mohammedan doctrines, he said to tell no lies, to not commit fornication, to preserve the ceremonies, to give to the poor freely, to observe the sacred days, to aggress not, but to war for the innocent and oppressed, to maintain the liberty of the people, to steal not, to deceive no man. And half of them don't even follow this, right? Muhammad, being under the inspiration of God, Gabriel, and his angels, collected together thousands and tens of thousands of warriors and went forth to conquer. And the angel host of Gabriel went forth with Muhammad's army and inspired them to such degree that they were without fear or hesitation. And Gabriel's host of angels went into the armies that fought against Muhammad and inspired them with fear and cowardice and panic. And it came to pass that wherever Muhammad went, there was sure victory, the like of which had not been for many centuries. Now Luamon, the false Christ, had previously destroyed, for the most part, the Alexandrian library, having inspired a mortal priest, Cotulius, to do the work. And after to do the work, it's reference AA. It's starting the alphabet over. And that is on page 641. AA says, immediately after Constantine founded the Christian religion in its modern form, Christian emissaries were sent to all the eastern countries to contrive the destruction of ancient records. In the year 390, a large portion of the Alexandrian library was destroyed at the instigation of a Christian priest, Cotulius, but it was rebuilt and restocked. In 640, it was again destroyed and totally at the instigation of 3 Christian monks to keep it from falling into the hands of Arabs, Mohammedans. The Caliph was urged to have the destruction stopped, but he said, if the writings of the Greeks agree with the books of God, they are useless and not worth preserving. If they disagree, they are pernicious and ought to be destroyed. In this, we see how spirits rule over mortals. 1882 edition. All right, hop back to page 632. Oh, you got a lot of books I've recommended. Dairy CM, shalom, shalom. All right, page 632, verse 22. And Luamong now perceived the triumph of Muhammad, inspired 300 monks and priests to go throughout Hellas and Arabia and destroy the ancient state records and libraries. And they went thither and accomplished the destruction. Muhammad was shown this by Gabriel, and he used it as a battle cry for his soldiers. Luamong now declared war in heaven against their false god Gabriel, and in not many years they both carried their war down to earth, contending for certain localities on the earth. And as for the other 2 false gods, Kabbalites, alias Buddha, and Inochesa, alias Brahma, remember they're the false, they had been in war against each other for over 600 years. Now had these 4 false gods possession of the whole earth, at least wherever there were mortal kingdoms and empires. Now, in reference to the Faithists in China and Vidu, they were no longer identified with the kingdoms or governments, but lived about in scattered families. In Arabia, Hellas, and Europa, they were scattered in all directions. From the time of JOSHU's death in Jerusalem, they began to migrate mostly toward the west. And remember, the real JOSHU was not hung on the Oahspe, right, or the prophet's wheel, which we call today the cross, right? He was stoned to death. Verse 28, and these called themselves, let me just go back. Verse 26. Now had these four false gods possession of the whole earth, at least wherever there were mortal kingdoms and empires. Now, in reference to the Faithists in China and Vidu, they were no longer identified with the kingdoms or governments, but lived about in scattered families. In Arabia, Hellas, and Europa, they were scattered in all directions. From the time of JOSHU's death in Jerusalem, they began to migrate mostly toward the west, and these called themselves Israelites and Jews. The Jews, so-called, were apostates in fact, eating flesh and marrying with other people. And right at the beginning of this, before the Jews, it has reference number 30, and at the bottom, it says, nevertheless, many of the Israelites and the Jews so-called. So I'll just read it again. From the time of Joshua's death in Jerusalem, they began to migrate mostly toward the west, and these called themselves Israelites and Jews. The Jews, so-called, were apostates in fact, eating flesh and marrying with other peoples. Now, we clearly see that because they put it in their Levitical laws, right? They allowed you to eat flesh, but it just had to be clean. It had to be kosher. Now, after the fall of the great empire, Egypt, her people migrated westward, hundreds of thousands of them, and they settled in Western Europa, where these people married with the Aborigines. Their offspring were called Druids, Picts, Gaels or Gaelic, Wales, Welsh, Gauls is spelled two different ways, Galls, Gauls, and in parentheses, Gauls, Gauls, and Johans or Johns, all of which are Egyptian names preserved to this day. Now, when the Faithists were moved by the inspiration of God to have no more kings and to flee away from the Christian warriors, they came amongst the people above mentioned. The apostate Faithists married with them, and their offsprings were the forefathers of those now called French, German, Russian, and English. God, Son of Jehovah, had said, suffer these apostates to marry, for here will I find a way to raise up disbelievers in the false Christ, and they shall ultimately become believers in Jehovah only. For inasmuch as I have suffered them to become scattered, so will I appropriate them as seed to quicken all the races of men to comprehend the All One. Go ahead and highlight that. There's so many things in here where we can kill this whole race factor because we all scattered and mixed up now, right? Next chapter. I'll read this again, just at verse 31 to 33. Now, when the Faithists were moved by the inspiration of God to have no more kings and to flee away from the Christian warriors, they came amongst the people mentioned above. The apostate Faithists married with them, and their offspring were the forefathers of those now called French, German, Russian, and English. God, Son of Jehovah, had said, suffer the apostates to so marry, for here will I find a way to raise up disbelievers in the false Christ, and they shall ultimately become believers in Jehovah only. For inasmuch as I have suffered them to become scattered, so will I appropriate them as seed to quicken all the races of men to comprehend the All One. Tabitha, shalom, sis. As you guys are on the topic of the book, the Big Blue don't have some of the footnote that's in my yellow cover Oahspe, which is volume 1 and volume 2. That's interesting. Because I'm going to get a copy. I got it in my car. I need to go ahead and push the button to get them to, right? So I can see the differences between the both of them, right? Okay. But I know some things here that they said that was in the previous version that they didn't put here due to certain updates and stuff, but I got to read through it to kind of let that sink in what they were really talking about. Okay. But they say this is the most updated version of everything, as they went through research, verifying things, and they just updated. Okay. Chapter LI, which is 46 in Roman numerals. For 500 years more, the wars lasted between the four false gods, Luamon, Thoth, Enochessa, and Kabalactes, and then they came to terms and ratified a division of the earth and her heavens into four great parts with fixed boundaries. And it was stipulated by them that the spirits of all mortals at the time of death should go to the heaven which reigned on the portion of the earth where they had lived, unless carried away by God, Son of Jehovah, to paradise, which is what we shooting for. Right? We don't want to get caught by default in one of these four kingdoms down here. There should be somebody waiting for us that comes from the second heaven or higher to come through here. When the light comes, y'all back up, make way for the true children of light, right? And y'all need to get yourself together. Y'all want to repent while I'm here? I'd let the Father know we set something up. No? Okay, well, back up. This one belongs to us, right? Hopefully a pathway is being made so you don't get caught up in holler, my G, when you turn over your flesh back to the dust. For 500 years more, the wars lasted between the four false gods, Luamon, Thoth, Enochessa, and Kabalactes, and then they came to terms and ratified a division of the earth and her heavens into four great parts with fixed boundaries. And it was stipulated by them that the spirits of all mortals at the time of death should go to the heaven which reigned on the portion of the earth where they had lived, unless carried away by God, Son of Jehovah, to paradise. So comparative peace reigned in the heavens of the earth. And after this, there was nothing in common between them. Their respective heavens and their earth possessions were under each one in his own way. And now they fell to work in earnest to adorn and glorify their heavenly kingdoms, their cities, their palaces, and thrones. And each of them exalted their great war captains who have fought so long for them, and they all had councils of millions and millions, and marshals and heralds, and masters of ceremonies, and magicians, and hundreds of millions. And they all had thousands of millions of subjects. But as for themselves, they kept aloof from their people. The private palaces of these gods and their private heavenly seats of splendor were seclusive to themselves and their favorite lords and high officers. And all angels else who desired to see these gods were obliged to pass through rigid examinations and solemnly bind themselves in oaths and castigations before they were permitted to pass to the outer columns of fire. After this, they were permitted on their knees After this, they were permitted to walk on their knees to the second columns of fire. Here, they were obliged to repeat 1,000 prayers and 1,000 anthems ere they could pass within. And now, when within the arena, they were obliged to crawl on their bellies, and for every length crawl, they had to repeat 7 new prayers. And it was 1,000 lengths in the inner pillars of fire of the arches of the palace, especially of Kabalactes and Luamons. Of these arches, there were 3,333,003. What? I had to make sure I wasn't reading the same line over again. Hold up. Of these arches, there were 3,333,333 in number. And there were 4 marshals for each arch, and these 4 had 2 relief watches for each 24 hours. To pass the arches, another examination had to be undergone. And after this, the person must again crawl on the belly till merging into the arch where the stairs began, of which there were 7 steps. On each of these steps, he must lay 1 day repeating prayers and praises to his God. They really don't want to see nobody. We're going to set up this obstacle course. Make it as long and as as strenuous as possible, because we really don't want to talk to them, right? We want to rule. This is anybody that goes through all of this, I will give them 30 seconds. All of that for 30 seconds? Look, on the upper step, however, he was not required to pray. Hold on, let me go back. Verse 8, I'm going to just start it over. To pass the arches, another examination had to be undergone. And after this, the person must again crawl on the belly till merging into the under arch where the stairs began, of which there were 7 steps. On each of these steps, he must lay 1 day, repeating prayers and praises to his God. On the upper step, however, he was not required to pray, but might look in silence at the throne, on which at times his God came and sat, his holy council sitting to the west, facing to the east to the throne. From the place of the person on the upper step to the throne was 500 lengths, nearer than which none were permitted to come, save by the God's special decree. And if the God was not on his throne in his holy council sitting, then the person must wait, not moving from his place, perhaps for a day or more. But after he had observed his God, he was not permitted to remain longer than to say 7 prayers. After this, he must return and depart in the same way he came. Now, as to the throne and its brilliancy and grandeur, no mortal words can convey a knowledge thereof to mortal understanding, for it was so vast and withal adorned with elements not found on the earth. Thousands of millions of which gems had been captured from the dispossessed false gods of centuries before, and even from heavens from other star worlds. And equally astonishing and overwhelming were the seats and places and robes of the holy council, which also baffled mortal words to convey an idea of. Let me read that again. And equally astonishing and overwhelming were the seats and places and robes of the holy council, which also baffleth mortal words to convey an idea of. Only to look on, to be overcome with emotion, to remember that what great effects can be accomplished by concentrated labor, and to feel the insignificance of isolation, one's wonder was swallowed up in silent awe before the scene. Such was the magnificence of each of the 4 heavenly places of the 4 hating gods, and not differing but little from one another. Imagine somebody down here, right? Not even knowing that there is multiple gods. You just roll up on one of these, right? They bring you via dream to see their heavenly throne. That's it. You're going to lose it. You will be forever entrapped in their lives thinking that this is God. Jesus is real. Let me describe the throne that I saw in the words that I can try and fumble together. Like they capture forever until they're delivered. It's almost impossible, especially if they have gotten them not to even go search out matters. You only look at our stuff. No, because this is what good Christians do. We don't want to worry about what they doing over there, because that's their house. We ain't worry about nobody else's house. What we got going on in here is what we need to be concerned with, right? You want to read us? That's how y'all caught. That's how I was caught. Such was the magnificence of each of the 4 heavenly places of the 4 hating gods, and not differing but little from one another. In order to obtain the privilege of thus going to look upon the throne and the God thereof, one had to first serve 100 years in the labors of that heaven, and to have his record good during all the while. If in the mortal life a man had served his God by preaching and praying, or by fighting battles for him, and had thus attained a good record, 100 years servitude in heaven entitled him to visit his God on the throne at the distance named above. And you still didn't get to talk to him. You got to look at him. 500, what is it? This 500 something math calculation away. And then you can't say nothing to him. You can just mutter 7 prayers and hurry it up and go on back and get on out of here. Go the same. Make sure you do all the stuff that you did when you got here, when you get to every point. Do it the same exact way. Or you ain't going to never be able to come back here to other 7 more prayers. Oh, look. Listen, let me read verse 16 again. If in the mortal life a man has served his God by preaching and praying, or by fighting battles for him, and had thus attained a good record, 100 years servitude in heaven entitled him to visit his God on the throne at the distance named above. But if the mortal had been an enemy to the God during his earth life, he could not attain to approach the throne in less than 300 years servitude, which service consisted in laboring in building mansions, or in paving roads in heaven, or in bringing produce up from the earth, or in bringing up other atmospheric elements for the gratification and glory of the God and his tens of millions of high officers. So great and grand and far-reaching were these 4 kingdoms that angels dwelt therein, hundreds of millions of them, never even hearing of any other heaven than the one they were in. Let me repeat that. So great and grand and far-reaching were these 4 kingdoms that angels dwelt therein, hundreds of millions of them, never even hearing of any other heaven than the one they were in. Now, for the most part, the Brahmins of the earth, on entering the S world, went to the Brahmin heavens, Etashong, ruled over by the false Brahma, Elias and Ochissa. And the Buddhists of the earth, on entering the S world, went to the Buddhist heavens, ruled over by the false Buddha, alias Kabbalites. The Christians on earth, on entering the S world, went to the heavens of Luamong, the false Christ. You know, I highlight where you came from. That way, when you're talking to the people that came from where you came from, you can kind of point some of this stuff out. You remember it. The Mohammedans went to Gabriel's heaven. God, Jehovah's Son, said, "Behold, the stubbornness of the angels of heavens, to whom they bound themselves on earth, they were bound in heaven. Neither would they admit that they were bound, though they were slaves. Their priests and monks and bishops, archbishops and popes, marched in a procession of heaven, praying, singing, and even carrying burdens, hundreds of years for the privilege of ultimately approaching the throne of Enochessa or Kabbalites or Luamong or Thoth, honestly believing they were to look upon the very Creator." And that this right here, I just be like, I say what Paul said at this point, right? If what we believe is not true, we are the most miserablest of all men on the earth. I bet he know he was prophesying right there. God said their minds were in bondage to so great an extent that even after they had attained to view their God at such a distance and in such artificial splendor, they could not receive the truth. And that's what I just said. I said, this happened, you're done for. You are caught forever in that false kingdom's throne, right? Until you delivered by Creator, right? And his righteous ones. Like you're caught. Ain't no coming for you. I mean, even if we tried to come for you, you are so gone by what you have seen, and you're what you call not being diligent, and you're not being diligent and checking into what you've heard. That stronghold is the Creator must break that, right? Look, and it's gonna be a long process. Yeah, you got that right, Tabitha, right? Key, say it again. Go ahead and repeat that. Even some Hebrews would be on their way to Luamong's kingdom. Verse 24, God said their minds were in bondage to so great an extent that even after they had attained to view their God at such a distance and in such artificial splendor, they could not receive the truth. And when an angel of Jehovah came to them and said, behold, this is only one heaven of which there are millions, they would not believe. We saw that in the, yesterday, when the captain got on. Like, he was really, when Selah was trying to explain this, dude was half listening to what Selah was saying. He's like, wait, hold on, you said, and he like literally like cut Selah off because he couldn't get past the word kingdoms, plural. Right? No, we're taught that there is one. This is a perfect example of what is happening, right? It's impossible for them to see the truth. They have been so brainwashed by, I ain't gonna say it's impossible because we were there, right? But I think there's a different, I can't really say what it is. I think some of us are a little more pliable and teachable than others, based on our life experience. I think it's a lot of things that play into this, and the teaching that you have over you, your own ability to think for yourself or not to think for yourself, right? People that are stronger than you, that are very persuasive. I think there's a lot of these things that play into this, which is why I think those of us with a little bit more willpower to think for ourselves, answer like, hold on, excuse me, I got a question. I think it's those of us that are able to break free because we're not scared to ask the question. We're not afraid of being kicked from the community or being banished because we really, it ain't like we're trying to be spiteful or vicious or even be disrespectful, but it's like, wait, okay, Pastor Tisha, I'm with you, but I'm a diligent student of you and what you're teaching, but I got a question. Help me to understand. It's us, like we was really diligent and believing what they was teaching us, and it's the questions that we start having about what's being taught and we asking questions because we want to make sure we ain't tripping. We want to make sure we are really clear on the information that's being presented to us because we want to be a good diligent student, right? Right? But that's how we get kicked out. That's how we get banished for asking questions. And it's probably one of the best things. I think it's those of us, the question askers, like, girl, if you don't sit down and shut up, why you keep, oh my gosh, she ain't well, teacher, just kick her out because we got to keep stopping every few minutes because she always got a question or he always got It's those of us that are able to break free. The ones that ain't scared to ask a question. The ones that ain't scared to be kicked out and banished and labeled as cult. I was cracking up. It was one gentleman, I forget his name. He was like, okay, so this cult that you guys are, and he just kept saying, I'm like, dang. But to get back to the point, what we're reading right here, you could see that they're so entrapped that it's impossible for them even to just listen, to hear somebody else's point of view, just to even take the information or go back and check. Like when they have debates, they don't really have this like a real type of debate. Well, at least the ones that's trying to debate the information that Selah is presenting with facts and references. And it's like they want to talk just to be heard. They're listening to you, taking in what you're saying, processing it, coming back with a decent type of rebuttal based on what you just said. It's like they just talking to get their point across, and it's like it's impossible for them to listen. Most of them. Some I've seen, they just kind of quiet down a little bit and then let other people come in the room and they just kind of like taking it in and stuff. But it's that same, we like saw that live in the studio. We was the studio audience at this live event, right? Hold on, what y'all said? Let me say my spot. We saw this. Look, hold on. What? I didn't see that. Shebrew said, wait till you see the video they did of Selah, and Selah wasn't even there to defend himself. This one guy, not to call no names, but it was one gentleman who came in. He came in just to come in and say, I ain't talking to y'all. I ain't got nothing. I ain't even, because dude ain't listening. But we could really see it was him that wasn't listening. And when the questions was about to start, I ain't got time for this. You know what? I'm going to make you famous. And that was, and although he said that to it, and I see that happening, if he do, because I found him. I found this channel and I saw what he does, right? He literally takes clips from like Bobby Hemmett and Dr. Blair and a lot of these other different people. He makes little snippets, right, about them and things they say. And some of it's good, and a lot of it, I can tell it's possibly points that he agrees with, right? But he said he's gonna take he's gonna make some clips or some snippets about Selah. I'm like, oh, let him keep his word on that. Let him keep his word on that, especially if the following he has actually goes and watch it, which they will, and they follow him faithfully, right? They gonna start coming to look. I don't know if he gonna put his name in there, but his people who are following him are pretty sharp, right? They gonna find Selah, and then we're gonna help them get free, right? Just like creators like, suffer it to be so for now, because we're going to make these seeds to get everybody free. And they're going to come out of this garbage, and they're going to know that there is truly only one creator, and they're all going to be worshipers of one creator only. I so pray that he makes all types of snippets of Selah, right? Because people are nosy. Think about the human psyche and how we operate. Ooh, what was happening? Let me find this. Where they put? Because he do little snippets, and it's like, oh shoot, that was good. Where's the whole full video, right? And people gonna go looking for this, right? And then those ones that's asking questions, that's diligent, they're gonna find Selah, right? And they're going to find some of the other faiths, and then they're going to get caught. And some of their questions are going to start getting answered. And then it's going to be like, it's a fire already brewing, y'all. I can feel it deep down in my shanana. I so hope he do what he says. I hope, yes, it's going to be a win for us. He just don't know what he's doing right now, right? Listen. Hold on. I'm getting excited. Hold on. Y'all making comments. I'm losing my spot. I gotta go back up. Okay. Shibu said, wait till you see the video they did of Selah, and Selah wasn't even there to defend himself. They went live and did a lot of ranting and cursing, but never addressed the text. They even pull up Oahspe so they can cherry pick through it. And that's one of the... If they true scholars like they say they are, they know that's a big no-no, right? Because we found it out reading through the Bible. You cannot cherry pick any text. Before you can be authorized to cherry pick a text, you have to at least read completely through it once. And I would venture to say 2 or 3 times, just to make sure you get the gist and the basic foundation, keeping everything in its proper context in every single place. You have to be able to connect the pieces that aren't connected. The books that have been split up, you got half the story over here, half the story over there. Before you can be an authorized cherry picker, you have to have done that for at least a couple years with this one text that you're going to cherry pick. Otherwise, you're making yourself look like a complete idiot up here. And every time you open your mouth, it's just verified that you are a complete idiot here, right? Bro, they blow me with that. But who am I? I'm a woman. I'm going to go talk to my husband when I get home and ask him questions. And then what Paul told us, shut up. Talk to your own husband. Don't say nothing in here. Okay. Hold on. It's the meat clogging up their thinking. It is, Roger, right? They can't think straight. It's the parasites in their gut that's affecting the critical thinking skills that they already didn't have. It's just eating up everything around that could have connected to something that we could use. Yeah, right, Vanette. As we stop eating the flesh and blood, we can see clearly and understand. Gloria said it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain this talk about this book to older people because of the slave mentality. I've seen that. And not to call out the gentleman, but you could also in that debate, you could see that with the older elder whom they call apostle, right? But there's nothing, at least from what we saw from that debate, nothing that he spoke out of his mouth. And this, not to be disrespectful, would lead me to believe that that title apostle was truly earned, right? They was yelling only one book, no other books, and drop of scripture. But we all know there are other books they use to support the Bible, Enoch, Jubilees, Joshua, etc. You're right. That debate was for for we, the Oahspe family, we saw firsthand Oahspe not thinkers. Right, Tabitha? Right? Auntie, Belinda Brown. Hey, girl, hey. Hold on, you keep jumping down. Okay. All right. JJ's doing a series, right? I said JJ's doing a series on the Oahspe on his channel, The Lion's Den. He did a 4-hour video, and he's going to do a video today. Is he gonna be live? Cause I would like to sit in on that. He probably might say something smart if I ask a question, but it's gonna probably be full of ignorance and just ignorance and misunderstandings and okay. When you watch, make sure you pay attention to the comments. Okay. Yeah, it's hard to listen because they're twisting the words of Oahspe, right? Plenty of people were interested in the information, so they be helping when they mean to condemn you, right, Tekva, right? That's why I said I so hope JJ start doing snippets of Selah, right? Because he gonna do snippets and people are gonna have questions and they're gonna try to think, okay, well, I know he said this, but let me see the whole thing he said surrounding this clip right here. And that's what's gonna get people, right? And they're gonna start seeing the truth of everything, right? Okay, hold on. Key, you authorized cherry picker. Oh no, you said authorized cherry picker. You was repeating what I said, right? But listen though, we can be off like when we cherry pick. We're considered authorized cherry pickers because we spent the better half of our lives doing nothing but KJV or whatever version we took the best liking to when we had the Bible. But that's what we read day in and day out. At least I know I did, right? And I did it not live. I didn't start doing the live videos until 2018, but since 2013, that's all I did, right? Sister Pam going through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, right? And then not only was we doing it in a year, but we was doing it 4 times a year. We was reading through the entire Bible every 90 days, right? So I would think I can be an authorized cherry picker of the 66 books, right? Because I read it over and over and over. I studied it. I studied the words of Paul. And when I studied Paul and how learned Paul was in the scriptures, Paul was cherry picking stuff, and he was able to say stuff in certain ways so where people get hung up on Paul. How dare you say such blasphemy against Paul? Because Paul is an authorized cherry picker, but Paul is getting over on y'all. He is. Ooh, I was like, wait a minute, what Paul just said? Because Paul knows, and he know. This is why he said this, because half people too ignorant to go back and check. Paul was an astute studier of Torah. So he knew it inside and out. And he knew the words that he could say and the words he couldn't say and how to tune it just right. When I realized and saw what Paul was doing, I said, wait a minute. Because Paul was my dude. Until I really got to know the ins and outs about Paul. That's why, and when I was talking to my sister, I was scared to even say that to my mama. I said, Alicia, I'm taking issues with the Apostle Paul right now. I said, because, did you read this? Listen, first of all, let's talk about the life of Paul, right? And what he knew and how he knew how to do things, right? I'm like, he is talking over their heads and people are not even catching it. And he is playing on their ignorance of not even knowing the Torah like he does. I'm just like, this is crazy, right? So, hold on. What you say, Shebrew? Oh, look. Let me get back to this. Where we at? Oh, we already over the hour. I ain't even done with the chapter. Look, hold on. Yeah, hold on. Let's go back. Will we pause? Oh, okay. Verse 24, page 633. God said their minds were in bondage to so great an extent that even after they had attained to view their God at such a distance and in such artificial splendor, they could not receive the truth. And when an angel of Jehovah came to them and said, behold, this is only one heaven, of which there are millions, they would not believe. And when he said to them, behold, this is heaven, with all its magnificence, is only one of the lowest heavens, they would not believe. And when he said to them, behold, this God, with all his glory, is only one God, of which there are many, they would not believe. And like I said, we saw this clearly on display for everybody who was in attendance and everybody who will watch this replay of this debate, right? Let me just read it over. And when an angel of Jehovah came to them and said, behold, this is only one heaven, of which there are millions, they would not believe. And when he said to them, behold, this heaven with all its magnificence is only one of the lowest heavens, they would not believe. And when he said to them, behold, this God with all his glory is only one God, of which there are many, they would not believe. And when he said to them, behold, there are higher gods than this, they would not believe. And when he said to them, behold, the all highest God is not this, but one not in shape of man, they would not believe. Even that was brought up, right? They would not believe. These subjects would say, I want not your Jehovah. Behold, I can see my God. He is the creative element personified. This is the all highest heaven. Here is the place and person of the Lord. God said, man sinned not in this, neither sinned the angels of heaven. The fault was with these false gods, because they had taught men that the Creator was in the image of man and sitting on a throne. Behold, their subjects would not believe otherwise. And it came to pass on earth, when a man died, his neighbor said, behold, he hath gone to see the Lord, who sitteth on the right hand of God. To where we know of a certain, clearly we already know, but it was repeated in here. Back on page 630 at the top, verse 57, Jehovah said, had I weakened since the time of Moses that I need to incarnate myself in order to make man understand me? Let's go to this next chapter. Who yet? Let me read one more. We're going to pause. We're going to start with the judgment of the four false gods, and then we'll pick that back up with it's talking about the chastisement of them. Oh, yeah, for a few pages. Let's get it started, and then we'll pick it back up tomorrow. Listen, God judges the four false gods, and this is what's this, chapter 47. The Lord said, hear, O ye of earth, and ye of the heavens thereof. Hear ye of the labor of God, son of Jehovah. For what was given me by Jehovah to be in my keeping for the resurrection of men and angels was gone away from me. My kingdoms in heaven were scattered and broken up. I, the God of the heavens, of the earth, sent my appeal unto the four false gods, saying, in the name of Jehovah, greeting unto you. Behold what ye have done, and also what hath come to pass, wherein ye have copied after my ways, ye have gained dominion, but of what profit unto mortals or angels? Because ye knew that Jehovah's God appointed ashars unto mortals, ye have also appointed ashars unto them, though not for their resurrection, but to raise up mortals with faith in yourselves. Ye have thus built on earth for the glory of your own kingdoms, for your ashars, to teach mortals not of eternal resurrection, but of attaining unto your heavens only, where and when I send angels to inspire mortals to obtain education and knowledge, ye send contravening angels, and they incite mortals to destroy their own libraries and places of learning. Ye persuade mortals that the only good and necessary knowledge is contained in your sacred books, for ye desire to prevent mortals from knowing there are other heavens than your own and other gods than yourselves. When I have gathered together wandering spirits and chaotic spirits and provided ways for their resurrection, ye have sent emissaries to thwart my labors. Ye have provided wicked heavenly pastimes and disgusting tournaments within your heavenly places in order to win subjects for your dominions. Ye have provided excursions from your heavenly places down to mortals for your angels to witness battles between mortal warriors, that these angels may satiate their own evil curiosity. Ye thus degrade your own angel subjects by causing them to rejoice in the havoc of mortal flesh and flowing blood. Ye thus call away from my heavenly schools and colleges angels who had begun resurrection, flattering yourselves that you are thus augmenting your heavenly kingdoms by additional subjects. On mortal battlefields, where there are hosts of chaotic angels, the spirits of the slain, I send my angels with heavenly ships to gather them up and restore them. But your emissaries come and destroy my ships for wickedness' sake, calling it glorious sport. Of these great evils ye have been notified times and times again, but ye put not forth your hands to remedy the wickedness. Ye sell indulgences to your angels to engage in wicked practices, and ye suffer your ashars to inspire mortal priests to sell indulgences to their followers in the same way. Thus do ye compound sin. Ye profess to confess the sins of your angels in your heavens, exacting servitude of them as a purchase of your excuse. And your ashars inspire mortal priests to do the same things for their mortal followers for stipulated prices and money. Thus do your ashars prepare mortals to become slaves in your heavenly kingdoms that they build unto your own personal glory. But ye take advantage of the infant mind to bend it away from Jehovah and away from eternal progress, that ye may inherit it as your dutiful subject. I got to finish because see, this is continuing. I'm going to find a break and we're going to stop. Chapter 48. God continueth to judge the four false gods. In the name of the Almighty, greeting unto you. 1,000 years ago, the grades of your heavenly subjects were from 30 to 50. Now they are fallen to 15. As ye have declined the grades of the angels in your heavens, even so have ye declined the grades of mortals within your dominions. Instead of well-tilled fields and good orchards, ye have given them war, widows, orphans, paupers, debauchees, thieves, and murderers. Instead of giving them good harvests, you have given them famines and pestilences. For your ashars inspire the priests, and they in turn entice their followers away from the fields to come and dwell in the cities, where they can be conveniently absolved from neglect and not confessing you. Thus have ye set aside good works and instruction and the desire for knowledge, both within your heavenly kingdoms and on the earth also. And instead thereof, ye have given them rites and ceremonies, leading angels and mortals as if they were cattle for your market. Instead of teaching angels and mortals to think for themselves, ye have prohibited them from thinking, save as your leaders think for them. Didn't we just say that? Thus have ye thwarted with all your might the cultivations of the talents Jehovah created with all. Say not that I, Jehovah's Son, desire subjects or worshipers. Behold, I prohibit both angels and mortals from worshiping me or announcing me or my kingdoms as the all-highest. Remember when we was talking about this? I was like, yo, I think we got this whole worship thing chopped and screwed. We ain't supposed to be doing no worshiping like what they tell us to do. Clearly, we give honor to the Creator. Thank you, Father. But say not, and we're on page 635, chapter 48, verse 10. Say not that I, Jehovah's Son, desire subjects or worshipers. Behold, I prohibit both angels and mortals from worshiping me or announcing me or my kingdoms as the all-highest. I teach them one only is the all-highest, even Jehovah. I teach them that I am but Jehovah's servant, working for the resurrection of mortals and angels. And this is true God that is currently the presiding God over the earth and all of earth's heavens, all over, right? This is true God, true servant of the Creator, who is also referred to as son. And if it is a female, she is goddess or daughter, right? It's both. I teach them one only is the all highest, even Jehovah. I teach them that I am but Jehovah's servant, working for the resurrection of mortals and angels, making sure us here on earth can rise, and those who have already passed their flesh back to the dust and are born into the spirit realm, that they continue to rise, right? I teach both angels and mortals, they shall not worship anyone born of woman. I'm going to read that again. I teach both angels and mortals, they shall not worship anyone born of a woman, and also of which the God that is speaking, who is true God, sitting on the throne of heaven and earth, was born of a woman at one time, right? That's how we all start here. I teach both angels and mortals, they shall not worship anyone born of woman. And behold, my footprints cannot be mistaken. I raised up Zarathustra and the man Brahma, and Abraham and Moses and Poe, and Chine and Capelia. Yet not one of these, with all the wonders they accomplished, was worshipped by their followers. Yet who was greater than Moses, that stretched forth his hand and said, come, come. And 4 million people in bondage marched out of Egypt, yet none worshiped Moses. Behold, the 70 colonies founded by Zarathustra, and yet they worship not him. Behold, Chine, who named the empire, who turned 300 million warriors to a people of peace. Behold, Capelia, who overturned the laws of 13 kingdoms and Vidu, and gave peace and plenty to 100 million people. Yet not Chine nor Capelia were worshipped. But ye harp on the idle tales of obscure magicians, and teach mortals to worship them. Nevertheless, ye have cause to be preached in your heavens, that I am a God like unto yourselves, working for mine own glory. Now behold, I prepare my angel host in wisdom and virtue, that they may go away from me and inherit the ethereal heavens above. Right? Even we prepare for this when we have children here. We prepare our children to leave and go away from us, right? To continue growing. And they repeat this same cycle, and we just keep growing and going upward, right? We got this training at every level of life. Nevertheless, ye have cause to be preached in your heavens, that I am a God like unto yourselves, working for mine own glory. Now, behold, I prepare my angel hosts in wisdom and virtue, that they may go away from me and inherit the ethereal heavens above. For this was my labor, for which Jehovah, through his exalted gods, made me God of the earth and her heavens. And I have sent thus away as brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah, thousands of millions of angels, whom I raised to grade 99. Yet in all the time of your dominions, ye have not raised one angel to the emancipated grades. Such as are wise within your dominions, tire of your pomp and splendor, and in course of time come to my heavens and renounce all lords and gods, and betroth themselves to Jehovah only. And I give them places in my schools and colleges and hospitals and factories, and thus educate them, that they may indeed in time become fit companions to gods and goddesses. Thus are your kingdoms forever depleted of your highest grades, so that your heavenly kingdoms and your earthly dominions have chiefly the ignorant and depraved as your idolaters. Whew! Boy, I felt fire. I feel like I need to keep going just one more. All right. 49. Chapter 49. God chastiseth the 4 false gods separately. In Jehovah's name, greeting unto thee, Luamong. Thou hast a warrior angel Thoth, alias Gabriel, who labored for thee more than 1,000 years in order to make thee under thy false names worshipful on earth. And thou didst promise Thoth that when he overcame Dagon, Ashtaroth, Baal, and other false gods, thou would give unto him a heavenly sub-kingdom with 1,000 million subjects. And Thoth did thus accomplish thy desire, but thou did not give him anything. But thou didst further exact of him the destroying of idol worship amongst idols, and the destroying of the oracle temples for consulting spirits, repromising him that when he had fulfilled these things, thou wouldest give unto him the promised heavenly kingdom. And Thoth did accomplish these things also, but thou didst refuse again to fulfill thy promise, whereby Thoth rebelled against thee, and set up his present heavenly dominions, inspiring his followers under the name of Muhammad. And now behold, thou hast since that day tried to destroy him in heaven and on earth. But Thoth was anchored in earthly possessions in Jerusalem and Tathinis in Egypt. And thou didst inspire mortals unto Western Europa to make crusades against Thoth in order to possess Jerusalem and Tathinis, whereby millions of mortals were slain, and vast regions of the country laid desolate. Behold, thou hast pretended thou wert the all-highest God, and yet thou wert unable to take a small earthly kingdom. Thou didst also inflict dire punishment and torture of the flesh on Jehovah's worshippers and on infidels against thy doctrines. With red-hot pincers pulled the flesh from the bones, or in boiling oil slowly dipped them, or from precipices hurled them, or in boxes lined with pricking spikes of iron bound them, thus to blot all knowledge and learning and opposition. Millions and millions hast thou thus cast in death in thy earthly regions. In Spain, and Itius, Italy, thou hast put to death more than 7 million mortals. After 7 million mortals is reference AB, which is the last reference for God's Book of Eskra. Yo, we're done with the Book of Eskra. I guess we're just going to read this to the end today. Look, the last reference is AB on page 641. In Spain and Italy alone, there were thus put to death, and by the wars to establish Christianity, upward of 7 million people. The Inquisition in many parts of Europe was so severe that it staggers belief. Yet it is a historical fact. During the same period of time, great and equally severe iniquities were going on in India and China for Brahma and Buddha. 1882 edition. All right, back to page 636, verse 14. Nevertheless, these angels will come home to thee in after time with vengeance in their souls. Behold, thy false promises to Thoth are already visited upon thy kingdoms. But as for Thoth, who became thy willing tool to do destruction for thy glory, what merit hath he? How shall I judge thee, O Thoth? Because thou hast the heavenly kingdom, and withal art master on earth of Jerusalem and Tathinis and Egypt and Punjab, thou flatterest thyself thou art a great God. But thy heavenly kingdom hath become a place for lusters and foul-smelling spirits in the lowest of grades. And thy heaven is surely and steadily declining in grade. Now as to thee, Cabalites, though thou hast destroyed 1 million mortal libraries and put to death 60 million people in order to establish thyself as Buddha, still thou hast steadily declined in grade, and thy kingdoms with thee. Thou hast fashioned many sacred cities and framed many tales as to whom thou wert in mortal life. Thou hast falsely called thyself Buddha, and doubly false hast thou taken the name Sakya Muni. Thou hast tortured to death millions of mortals who rejected thee, and when my heavenly ships rescued their distracted and chaotic spirits, thou didst wantonly connive with thy Druhas to despoil my ships and cast these helpless spirits into darkness. Thou hast done these things for past times and diversities, for thy falling heavens. And even so hath it been with thee, Inochissa. Never had, O Lord, a fairer opportunity in all the earth's heavens to do a good and great work than what fell into thy hands. But behold how thou hast harvested thy heavens. That 1,000 years ago, thy grades were from 40 to 65, and this day they average but 10. It needeth no prophet to foretell that thy declension will lead to destruction in the end. Now lastly, O ye false gods, ye deceivers and hypocrites, ye have divided the earth and the heavens thereof between yourselves, and reconfederated together for a balance of power. Ye have also persuaded mortal kingdoms to divide the earth into sections and regions, and to clamor for a balance of power between different kingdoms. Ye have thus caused mortals to provide standing armies to protect themselves, kingdom against kingdom, after the manner ye protect your own kingdoms in the heavens. Christians against Christians, Brahmins against Brahmins, Buddhists against Buddhists, Mohammedans against Mohammedans. Yet all of these four have ye arrayed against one another. In very likeness of your heavens have ye built on the earth. Ye have inspired mortals to keep as standing armies 40 million soldiers. Ye have inspired mortals to build military schools and colleges where the young may be trained in the art of war and destruction. Ye have inspired mortals to build monuments to their generals and captains because of their courage to destroy. Ye have inspired the wickedness of mortals to believe that if they would read your sacred books and call on your names, ye would surely save them, and after death take them to the highest of heavens. And yet when they die, your hosts are not there to receive them. And when they call out for you, your emissaries kick them and beat them, and they return with vengeance to afflict mortals. Chapter 50. God continued with his chastisement against the four false gods. God said, in the name of Jehovah, wherein shall I find an excuse for your behavior? When my angels taught man how to make a captain When my angels taught man how to make a capstan and a screw and a telescope and a compass, behold, your emissaries inspired my chosen to be tortured or put to death. When my angels inspired man to comprehend and announce the glory of the stars and planets, ye put my chosen to death. Through your vindictive angels against Jehovah were these things accomplished. When my angels taught man by inspiration that the earth was round instead of flat, ye sent spirits of darkness to inspire the death of my philosophers. Because forsooth, my inspiration agreed not with your sacred books, which ye compounded for your own glory. Yea, ye palmed off your compilations from other false gods as being Jehovah's, and ye played upon the honest innocence of man's understanding, contrary to the will of the Almighty. Ye have holding your sacred books up and said, here is the ultimate, beyond this no man shall go. And ye knew the while that any fixed revelation could not be true, because all the universe is in constant progress. Ye have holding up your sacred books and said, here are the rules and a sure guide to reach the all highest heavens, knowing the while that your heavens were the lowest of the bound of heavens of the earth. Now behold, the same rules apply unto you as to the least of Jehovah's children, which are that whoso setteth up a mark with himself as the highest, and he, the interpreter thereof, is already on the downward grade. And whoso seeketh to glorify himself by his kingdoms or by the magnificence of his possessions, taketh a burden upon his shoulders that will soon or late fall upon him and crush him. And whoso fortifieth himself by armies, whether in the heavens or on the earth, bindeth himself therewith for his ultimate sorrow. And whoso turneth away from Jehovah and saith, I will not go after him, nor search to find him more, but I will build unto myself, plan an edifice that will tumble down upon him in time to come. Chapter 51. God continued with his chastisement of the four false gods. In the name of the Almighty, my brothers, look at the glory ye boast of. Ye say, behold, we have scattered Jehovah's faiths into all the places of the earth. They are without a kingdom. They have not left one community to themselves on the whole earth. Think ye Jehovah hath appropriated them? Behold, it is true, ye have despoiled them and scattered them abroad. You have hunted them down in China, Vidu, Arabinia, Parsi, Helest, and Europa. Ye have denied them the right to own lands, the right to follow their choice of avocations. You have denied them justice and even a hearing in the courts of trial. And your accusation against them was, They worship not the gods born of woman, but behold the wisdom of Jehovah. Because ye have thus dispossessed his people, and they were scattered abroad, they have sown the doctrine of the All One over all the earth and the heavens thereof. They have been as a leaven to work in the foundations of mighty kingdoms and empires. They have given learning unto all peoples, to show the magnificence of Jehovah's universe. Behold, inhabitants of the earth, now look upward and ask, may there not be other worlds? How long hath been the earth standing? Could the creator of thousands of millions of worlds, which have stood for thousands of millions of years, be so young as any one of these pretended gods? And descend to the earth and do a work so imperfectly that only one small kingdom heard of him. Chapter 52. God prophesieth of the four false gods, Luamung, Enochessa, Kabbalactes, and Gabriel. God said, in the name of the All-Highest, greeting, my brothers. When ye first established your holy confederacy, behold, ye professed to be in service to Jehovah, and that your confederation was to raise up sons and daughters for the Ethereal heavens. But even before ye had completed your organization, ye modified the name Jehovah, signifying the all person, to the name Holy Ghost, signifying no person but principle only. Thus, in the very outset, ye prepared your kingdoms without distinctive purpose, and resurrection guided toward unity. For to declare all things are not parts and principles comprising one universal all, is to found a base for discord. As the players, when each one turneth away from the tune, playing a strain of his own account. Whereas what ye declared of Jehovah will also be declared of you, as ye denied his person, substituting that which was void, and as an incomprehensible state, so shall the same judgment come upon you all. As ye put away Jehovah, so will mortals put you away. As ye declared the Creator to be but a principle, a non-entity without sense or unity of purpose, so shall mortals declare of you all. They will say, behold, Brahma is not a person but a principle. Didn't they say this? They said this, but they was talking about who they thought was the Creator. Look, bruh. Hold on. Verse 8. As ye put away Jehovah, so will mortals put you away. As ye declare the Creator to be but a principle, a non-entity without sense or unity of purpose, so shall mortals declare of you all. They will say, behold, Brahma is not a person but a principle. Buddha is not a person but a principle. Christ is not a person but a principle. God, Gabriel, is not a person but a principle. Because ye labor to pull down Jehovah's name, behold, the names which ye falsely assumed will be pulled down and cast out also, both on earth and in heaven. Because ye sought to confine in Jehovah's firmament the spirits that rise up from the earth, your kingdoms are falling lower and lower. Because ye sought to confine the talents of mortals to your sacred books have become worthless before Jehovah. Mortals as well as angels will repudiate you and your books. Only Drooks and Juhas will be your followers. And thou, Thal, shall be the first to be cast down, and thy heavenly kingdoms with thee. Thou, Enochessa, shalt be next, and thou heavenly kingdoms with thee. And thou, Kabbalactes, shalt be third, and thy heavenly kingdoms with thee. And last of all, thou, Luamung, shalt go down, and thy heavenly kingdoms with thee. Nevertheless, thou shalt conquer all the earth, and trail it round with mortal blood. And after that, thou shalt be hated above all other false gods that ever hath been. And we on that track with hating Luamung and his false Christ. 53. God pleaded with the four false gods. God said, in the name of Jehovah, greeting unto you. Hear the plea of God, Jehovah's son, like one that is whipped and beaten in a great contest. I cry out because of the Almighty whom I serve. What is the fault of Jehovah that ye have turned away from him? Behold, I will plead for him. Was not his name good enough? What name is greater than the word creator? If ye rejoice that ye will live, then are ye not beholden to him? Why have ye substituted other names? Who was to be the gainer thereby? Certainly not Jehovah. What excuse can ye assign that ye have made other names than Jehovah's worshipful on earth and in heaven? Mortals will ask these questions in time to come. Did not the Almighty, before your times, find a way to reveal himself and his commandments? Why have ye persecuted and abused and put to death mortals for worshiping Jehovah? Behold, all ye four profess to be the Prince of Peace, but ye carry concealed daggers, and ye strike to death those who glorify the Creator. I run after my children as a father would, to snatch them away from a serpent, but ye slaughter them before my eyes. I weep for them. In shame, I look upon the earth and the heavens thereof, and I say unto myself, O thou God, to whom these were given in charge. And after charge is reference number 31, which at the bottom says, in charge, how incompetent thou art against the flood of evil. I'll read verse 16 again. In shame, I look upon the earth and the heavens thereof, and I say unto myself, O thou God, to whom these were given in charge. And I pray unto Jehovah that your hearts may be turned to pity. I see before you all certain ruin and terrible hails, and I cry out to Jehovah to give me the means to save you. I pray that I may be even unmolested in rescuing and saving the helpless and distressed, but ye frustrate all my inventions. I am weary with my labor, and with great kingdoms given into my keeping. Alas, I am shut off on all sides from doing good, and yet that is all I desire to do. Now I beseech you, O ye false gods, make your concessions unto Jehovah. Save yourself from certain destruction, and Jehovah's Son from humiliation before the high-raised gods of other worlds. 54. The false gods reply to God, Jehovah's Son, in the names of the Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost. Hey, after all this, you still coming with this garbage? In the names of the Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost, greeting unto thee, God, Jehovah's Son. In confederation assembled, we reply unto thee with patience and mercy. We set not up our kingdoms for self-glorification, but righteousness and good works. Behold, the firmament was overcast with falling Aji, and our former lorddoms were broken up and gone. As we chose our several places in uninhabited heavenly regions, therefore we took nothing from thee. We admit the goodness of thy heart and the honesty of thy purpose, but we do not acknowledge thy wisdom a sufficient guide unto heavens like our own. The wise and exalted may rise in wisdom, purity and power, by the policy of love and non-resistance, and by the example of good works. But where such inhabitants, either on earth or in the heavens thereof, comprise but a small percent of the population, they become the victims of the lawless. And this is the reason thy followers, both on earth and in heaven, are persecuted and abused. We admit the declension of our grades, as thou hast said, but behold, thy emissaries carry off our highest grades. If thou would carry away our Druhas only, we would not interdict the travel of thy ships in our heavenly kingdoms. But as soon as thy ships come, behold, our highest grades rush for them. Like that should have told you something. If thou would carry away our Druhas only, we would not interdict the travel of thy ships in our heavenly dominions. But as soon as thy ships come, behold, our highest grades rush for them, for which reason we have been obliged to prohibit thy laborers within our midst. They're trying to keep everybody as slaves, even those that's trying to get free. Touching our slaves, of whom we have more than 18,000 million, without slavery, they would do nothing in heaven, and for the most part would inhabit mortals as vampires, daemons, engrafters, reincarnators, and familiars. Only by holding them as our slaves can we restrain them from these vices. Forget not that ere our heavenly kingdoms were established, the earth was covered over many places with oracles and temples used to consult the spirits. And these spirits were in darkness, holding mortals down in darkness. We broke them all up, and thus cleared the earth from innumerable self-gods and self-lords. Touching the matter of the name Holy Ghost, have we not freedom? as well as thou, to choose a name to please ourselves? Thou hast prophesied our downfall, and yet pleadest for us to prevent it. If we are to be overthrown, how then could we avert it? And then thy prophecy would not realize truth. Nevertheless, we propose unto thee, if thou would renounce the person of the Creator and style it the Holy Ghost, we are prepared to treat with thee. Otherwise, no more. They heard nothing true God said to them at all. Nothing. 55. The Lord said, in the same hour when God in paradise received the epistle from the four false gods, a light appeared in the firmament above, descending from the Etherian heavens. It was a starship from the Nirvanian heavens of Chilhakad, only 400 years from the dawn of the ark of Cosmon, of the era of Cosmon. Like a crescent made of stars, with the sun betwixt the horns, it came, a very world of light, swiftly coming toward paradise. Down came the ship of fire far below the moon's orbit, and then halted. For 2 whole days it halted, as if to warn the false gods, the pretended saviors of angels and mortals, that Jehovah had spoken in the higher heavens. Then came again the starship till it anchored near the throne of God, and the lights and the Etherian waves of higher worlds were opened. And there came out of the midst of the arches of ships 1,000,000 angels, well trained in the management of worlds, and they were headed for Hypaniatissa, goddess of Via Ganatage, in the plains of Mayagoth. And God of paradise raised the lights of his heavens and opened his palace and throne to the approaching goddess and her host. God's holy council made way, and Hypanettissa and her host entered the palace of God. God said, Hail, daughter of Jehovah, in his name, come to my throne. And God saluted on the sign, the circle, and the triangle. Hypanettissa answered in the sign, chain of the circuit, saying, All honor and praise to thee, O God, Jehovah's Son. Then she went up and sat on the throne of God, and her host followed in front of a crescent, maintaining the chain of Etherian light to the ships, and thence to the worlds above. The Essenars chanted an anthem to Jehovah, and after that the goddess rose up on the throne of God and said, Praise be unto thee, Jehovah. Mine eyes have beholden thy son, a son of thy love. The glory of the red star in her heavens thou hast uncovered before me. The toils and trials of thy God thou hast opened as a book is opened, and the dark ages of hundreds of years thou hast made transparent by the light of thy countenance. Thou hast appropriated those that labored for their own glory to sweep from off the earth and her heavens oracle worship and idolatry, and these curses shall not return, not again forever. And these curses shall return not again forever. The prayer of thy God reached up to the heavens, Chilhakad. The gods of other worlds hearkened unto his voice. And thy voice, Jehovah, came upon me, saying, Daughter of Via Ganatage, haste thou quickly to the red star, my God is calling. And thou gavest into my hands 1,000,000 of thy holy sons and daughters with a great ship of fire. And I sped through thy Etherian seas and wide roadways, glorying in the work thou gavest me. Now behold, I am honored before thee and before thy God and his holy council. My love is to them like a sister's who had found a long-lost brother. The glory of thy handiwork thou hast manifested in them. Thereupon the goddess gave the sign, love to all, and she sat down. Then God rose up and said, Because thou hast blessed my people, O Jehovah, I am abashed before thy goddess who have come so far to see me. Behold, in the last hour of my trials, thou sent unto me, in the time I was heartbroken, thou thrust into my kingdom the chain of thy Etherian light. How can I be unmindful of thee, Jehovah? How can I doubt the triumph of the Almighty? Thou hast dwellers in thy Orion realms, whose presence are as a power to overturn a world. And thou hast found one that rusheth forth at thy command to show me the way of succor. Thereupon God gave the sign, a grateful heart, and he also sat down. Again the Essenes chanted, and presently a ray of light passed over the head of Mohammedanism, the goddess, and it formed above the throne like a brilliant star. And the voice came out of the star saying, My son, God of the red star in her heavens, all honor and glory be unto thee. The measure of thy labor is known to my sons and daughters in the higher worlds. From this time forth, concern not thyself more about the four false gods. Sufficient unto them is the work they have undertaken. Behold, they have appropriated 4 great divisions of the earth unto themselves, and the heavens thereof have become their dominions. Suffer them therefore to keep what they have taken, because they have bound mortals by their religions, and established themselves by mortal laws, and by force of their standing armies thou shalt give unto them even all they have bound on earth and in heaven. But behold, I have another continent lying beyond the ocean, Gautama, where my people know me and worship me. Remember, Gautama is where we are at in the Americas. That is us. But behold, I have another continent lying beyond the ocean, Gautama, where my people know me and worship me. Thither shalt thou inspire mortals to go from the east and find Gautama and inhabit it. And thither it shall come to pass, none of the false gods shall establish their doctrines by mortal laws and bind my people. And as for the spirits of such mortals as the false gods cause to be slain in the inquisitions, lead them to those gods that took them. And those such spirits have vengeance in their hearts and will be the means of ultimately casting the false gods into hell, ye shall not go near to them. And this right here, remember how we looking into this whole out of Africa type thing? Remember how before, like early last year, I was like, something is wrong. It's like when I realized, I'm like, wait, I'm native to the Gautamas, right? I'm home. I'm where I'm supposed to be. How they're trying to usurp this and take over the Gautamas. They're trying to get the native people, the Aborigines who are native here. They're trying to trick them with the out of Africa whole theory thing and get you to leave the Gautamas. Like make us really think that we're from over here when we are not, right? Listen. Thither thou shalt inspire mortals to go from the east and find Gautama and inhabit it. And thither it shall come to pass, none of the false gods shall establish their doctrines by mortal laws and bind my people. And as for the spirits of such mortals as the false god caused to be slain in the inquisitions, leave them to those gods that took them. And those such spirits have vengeance in their hearts and will be the means of ultimately casting the false gods into hell, yet thou shalt not go near them, but thou shalt look to the mortals whom thou shalt take over to inhabit the western continent, and thou shalt send Lewis thither and raise up by birth certain mortals who shall ignore the doctrines of enforced worship for any god, Lord, or Savior. For the people of that land shall be free, not only in body, but in spirit also. And it shall be guaranteed unto them to worship in any way that their conscience may dictate. And after in any way is reference number 32, and it says my. And it shall be guaranteed unto them to worship in any way that their conscience may dictate. And when the dawn of the ark of Cosmon cometh, behold, I will open up my heavens unto mortals and prepare the foundation of my kingdom on earth. The voice ceased, and now God declared a day of recreation, that the Etherians and Atmospherians might mingle together and rejoice before Jehovah. And this was done also. And on the next day, Hypanetissa departed, leaving the requisite Etherian labors with God. And that, my beautiful people, not only is the end of our reading today, but it is the end of God's Book of Eskra. These books just keep getting better and better. Oh my goodness. What can I say? I'm at a loss for words, right? I'm at a loss for words. I really am. Look. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. We're almost at 2 hours. But I thought we was going to break it up, but I guess not. We had to see the end of it today. For whatever reason, I don't know. But I'm sure we're going to figure out in days to come. Some going to line up somewhere that I've come to learn. Right, Tickler? That's right. I'm going Tommy in. All right, beautiful people. Look. That's it for today. I saw the comments and stuff going. I think I'm going to just... I'll go back and read all this when we get done, when I get a chance. But I really have to get out of here now. Y'all, it is Thursday, September the 22nd, 2022, day 219 of year 4 of reading through the books of law and the prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1237. We finished reading God's Book of Eskra, found in Oahspe, page 630 to page 640. And tomorrow we start Book of Es, or I hear some people say Book of East, daughter of Jehovah, being a heavenly history of the earth and her heavens and of Etheria since 400 years ago down to the dawn of the Cosmine era. Right? This I can tell it's going to be good because we're in the Cosmine era now, right? Yo, look. Girl, I had my chapters mixed up. Girl, look. Thank you. Hold on. I'll fix it. I see where I messed up. Yep. I see where I messed up. Y'all, I did. Okay, so y'all, to follow along and be in the right spot, y'all would have had a book and realize where I messed my chapters up. I see it right now. On page 625, 45, 46, 47. After chapter 47, I wrote chapter 43. Let me fix this now. Thank you. Because I probably wouldn't have caught that. Let me fix it now. Let's see, 46, 47, and then I went to 43. This should have been 48, all right? 48, 49, 50. You know what? Listen, when we got to, what chapter was it? I noticed, I'm like, wait, that's not, when we got to chapter, what I called 46, L-I, I was like, wait, that ain't right. I said 46. I kind of caught it right there, but I just kind of just kept going. But I knew the L-I couldn't be 46, right? But I just kind of kept going. So 50, that was, what I said was 46 was actually 51. I'm sorry. 51. 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59. I'll call chapter 55. I'll call chapter 60, 55. Lord, have mercy. 60. Okay, so it's 60 chapters in God's Book of Eskra. Let me double check myself again. Hold up. Because I got off with the chapter count. I got it wrong starting yesterday. 48, 49, 50, 51. 52, 53, 54, 58, 59, 60. Okay, I fixed it. All right, y'all. You're welcome. I love y'all. This book was fire, right? I wish I knew how to do like the little, like the studio stuff where you drop bombs and all this stuff, right? But yeah, it was really, really good. And Father, I am really at a loss at what to call you right now. Like, you are, and I think I said yesterday, indescribable, but I'm going to just say undescribable in the current language that I have right now. Like, I didn't pre-write it today, right? So, but going through this, I'm just like, my language is not even sufficient. I ain't even on a level to begin to even utter praises that it's like, y'all get it, right? I love y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to look up this book from Selah. He mentioned it before. I remember it when you said it, Timetables of Prophecy. Also, the other book that I mentioned, I'm going to put the screenshot of what it looks like and also the link for Amazon where you can get it from. That one is $5. The other one is PDF, and I've already posted that, so you can just get that. Open up, look, and go do some research. Check this stuff out, right? Okay, Isaiah, come here. No. You will still sleep. I told Zay he can complete it.
This one is taking that one.
Zay, come on and end it. Close it up. Close it up. What we talked about yesterday. If I don't call you onto the kitchen, don't come in here. Go. Everybody out. All right.